This is Tim Bryan. Today, how to protect yourself in the event of a weather emergency or natural disaster. We have continuing coverage of the 21st Emergency Preparedness Workshop held in Honokaa. Marlon Verasamy with the National Weather Service was on hand to talk about hurricane science and risk. This year, the Central Pacific Hurricane Center expects 4 to 7 tropical cyclones to affect the Central Pacific. An average season has 4 to 5 tropical cyclones, which include tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes.
All right, so there's a climatology. On an average year, we see 4 to 5 tropical cyclones out in the Pacific. That doesn't mean they come here, doesn't mean they come anywhere near the islands. We see them, they're either numbered or they're named at that point. That's what we usually see on an average year. Since 1981, we've seen 147 tropical cyclones. And this picture here, which is very, very busy, and I do apologize, but I want you to take out this picture right here. You can see the red tracks right here. These red tracks all here are storms from 2000 all the way through to 2010. So 2005 to 2010, so most recent storms. And these purple lines you can see right here, you see that little spot there where they all meet up right there? That's Kauai. Those are the 3 hurricanes that hit them, Dot, Iniki, and Eva. So they're like ground zero for hurricanes.
Part of that has to do with the predicted El Nino pattern.
El Nino is a warming of water. La Nina is a cooling of water. And I'll just give you a quick story just to kind of explain it. The reason why it's called El Nino and La Nina is that along the coastline of Ecuador and Peru, they noticed around Christmas time that they would start seeing a little bit of warming of water, and it happened every year. So they named it El Nino after the child or the gift. And then they started kind of doing some more tracking and trying to start to figure out, well, how often does this happen? Because they noticed the fishing would change with it. So when they started doing some tracking, they noticed that every 2 to 7 years, they would start seeing this abnormal warming trend, El Nino, which would time what they would see at Christmas time. And then the cooling effect, La Nina, would also happen every 2 to 7 years. And it would be about a 7-year cycle they'd see over and over again. So what it basically means for us here on the island is not, you'll see stories about, widespread damage and flooding and all kinds of things on the mainland. And there are some spots where they do see some damage. I'll get into that here in the next slide. Primarily what we're looking for here in the islands, we see a small uptick in tropical cyclone activity. So we see 6 to 7 per year on average, and we see about 3 to average in a La Nina year. So right now we're currently in a neutral spot, but we are looking to go into an El Nino this fall, coming probably August, September. So obviously we're in a neutral spot there. So these winter months there don't apply to us right now. What you see right up here is this showing a drying trend during the winter time frame. So if El Nino extends into the winter, for next winter we'll start seeing a drier trend, which would probably mean a slight dip in rainfall for around the islands here. Not a major shift, but a slight dip for us. But for right now, for current times, looking for June to August right here, this little wet pocket right down here, down south of us here, this could affect hurricanes as they start coming through. And the tracks you saw with Eva, Iniki, and Dot, they all kind of went to the south and then swung north. So what happened? So we'll start seeing down here is more increased thunderstorm activity, which means in the short term we'll start seeing more south swells. So for the surfers, they're going to love that part there. But then for potential for hurricanes, anything that kind of comes through here will start drawing energy from this area right here, and it could see an increase of storms that actually make it past the islands and could potentially hit the islands too. If we transition back into La Nina year, everything kind of reverses here. This becomes wetter in the winter time, so we could see more rainfall, but less likely chance of a thunderstorm or of a hurricane. And then a drier pocket down here, which means we'll start seeing less thunderstorm activity down here, which means less of a chance for tropical cyclones. This is the easiest way to explain for, as far as we're concerned, is what El Nino and La Nina will do to us. There is, as you can see around the rest of the world, there's wide-scale effects, and it does affect the rest of the world. But as far as we're concerned, all we're really looking for is just basically a small uptick in tropical cyclone activity for this fall, and that's pretty much about it.
It's also important to remember dangerous storms can happen anytime. Take December 2013. Heavy rains, flooding, and damaging winds hit East Hawaii hard.
Again, our season officially starts this month, though we only seen one in the last 40 years. Obviously, it gets much, much worse into July, into August. The water gets a little bit warmer, and then begins to die down in September and October, and then dies off completely in November. Keep in mind, though, that Eva was a November storm. So even when we get past October, there's still potential for not just a storm, but a very violent storm past that point. So, and we had the depression that hit last Christmas, I believe it was, and it really, really weak, hit down in Hilo and kind of dissipated over top of us. That was a December storm. So even though we get out of the season, that doesn't mean that the potential is dead.